Fabulous fiber friends, I have a treat for you today. I am here with a knitter, Jen, although she doesn't consider herself a knitter. She is really a jewelry artist, and I met Jen at a pop-up shop in Studio City a couple weeks ago. India Untangled had a pop-up shop, and I met Jen and fell in love with her knitting jewelry. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So Jen, hi. So tell us all about your, actually you told me that you were doing other jewelry before you started the knitting jewelry?
Yes, back in, I don't know, 2014, I started doing lost wax carving, where you carve everything out of wax first.
Oh, okay.
And then create a mold and then cast.
Is that how jewelry is initially when it?
Not always. There's different types. There's different types of construction. So one is like a casting, and the other one's sort of a fabrication.
Oh, okay.
So you kind of think of it. You can think of it. It breaks up in like different areas. Sort of like there's fiber arts, but there's crochet and knitting.
Okay. So
jewelry has the same sort of different kind of groupings.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I went down the path of lost wax casting, and if you think of, you know, Greek and Roman statues. Bronze, that's the same process.
Okay.
And it is a 5,000-year-old process that we're still using today. Just some of the technology's a little different.
Changed a little,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I started doing lost wax carving back several years ago, and then I was just making jewelry, sort of alone in the studio by myself, making things. And then I got turned on to 3D modeling. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. That's
3D modeling.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Can I grab a prop?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the way
is this wax? This
yeah.
is a wax. Okay.
Yeah. So how
Here's
I
a wax
started
casting.
is you would get a piece of wax like that, and it comes in a tube, and you slice up the tube, and then it comes in pieces like that, and these are called slice rings.
Okay.
Just because it comes from a tube. And so then you sort of use a wax file and then carve it down to the shape that you want. So...
Oh, so like this ring here, they came...
Yeah.
Okay.
They can. This is done digitally. This is done with the wax.
Okay.
It's probably, hold on another second. At one point in history, so this particular ring was probably the first batch of rings that I did back in 2014.
Now, how long have you been making jewelry?
Off and on since 2008.
Okay, so long.
Like I started off with like vintage, like opaque glass German beads, mid-century.
Cool. Yeah, cool.
And then I did that for a while, and then stopped, and then came back and started doing construction, stopped, and then came back with the wax carving, and then became super addicted, and that's where I am now, not turning back.
Okay, so now explain that to
ring,
me. Okay.
So you can kind of see that shape in there.
Oh yes. Okay.
So this started out as this. And so I would just carve.
And so you file or carve.
Yeah. And then with all the little extra shapes, then I would take this little tool, and it's hot, it gets hot. So then you just ball up little pieces of wax and then drop that off to get that shape.
Ah, okay.
So
that's
that
cool.
was one of my first designs that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all about this. And then, and that's where you see sort of the dot motif coming up. That comes into the newer work, where this is all digitally created, 3D printed.
You guys were twinning today with our rings.
Wonder twins.
With Melissa from Espace Tricot.
So that's how, like, that's from here to here.
Okay.
So you can kind of see some of the sort of the dot motifs or the demi-sec or little air bubbles.
That's a demi-sec?
Yeah, it's like sweet champagne, I guess, is
I was
demi-sec.
just going to say champagne.
I'm like, all, ooh, fancy.
Very cool. Okay.
So that's kind of where the process is. And then now I just design everything, like I said, on the computer. 3D, send the file to my guy downtown, and then he prints it and then takes it over my caster, and then let me find the casting. Then it comes back from the caster kind of looking like that. And it's got that little nubbing on the back is a sprue. So what they do is they take like a wax cylinder, they call it a tree, and they stick like hundreds of rings on that tree, then cast it. So that little nub right there is how it was attached to.
So they would attach sort of this direction.
Yeah. So it comes back from the caster looking like that, with a little knob on it, and then I cut it off.
And it's all silver. It's not. You don't have any of the sort of. What would you call that? Like the blackening or tarnishing?
Yeah, it's called silver black or liver of sulfur, depending on what process you're using. And so this one was sort of dumped in all of the silver and black, and dumped into my tumbler, and now it's like halfway finished.
Okay.
And then it's almost to this.
So it's
complete.
like 4 steps. 4 or 5?
Yeah, so you've got designing in the computer,
Mm-hmm.
the 3D print, the casting, then the hand polishing, I guess. And within each step, there's multiple steps,
Yeah,
of course.
sure. Oh, that's very cool. So now, if I remember, you told me that first you were doing just regular jewelry,
Right.
and then someone, a friend, had encouraged you to go into like the fiber, creating fiber
Yeah.
jewelry for us fiberistas.
Yes, my mom's a knitter, and so here, you want me to take this? Okay. So my mom's a knitter, and she writes her own patterns, she does these elaborate shawls and things, and that just kind of blew my mind, and so I started making her buttons, and I made her shawl pin, very clunky. I didn't understand like what actually her knitting was about. And I was like, oh, maybe I should make some buttons and then you could sell them at the store and whatever. And she's like, yeah, maybe. But I didn't realize like she's doing sort of like lace knitting, and I'm making these big old buttons with like chunky knits.
Yeah.
Right. But she was very kind. I'm like, oh, thank you. And then so I was just like, oh, okay, that was that. And that was the end of that. And then at one point I was a couple years, maybe a year or two later, I was writing a grant for jewelry. And one of my students was kind of helping me with some language. And he was a marketing guy, and he was so awesome about helping me with some of the language of just the grant. He was like, yeah, I'm like, I want to hire you. And he's like, yeah, I got some ideas for you. And I was like, okay. And so I ended up hiring him for like a 6 weeks consultation things. His girlfriend was an avid knitter and was like, you need to look into this community, they're rad. And I was like, I don't know, I already started my mom, like, it didn't, and she's like, no, you've got to look into this community.
And were you knitting at the time yourself? Okay.
No, I had learned crocheting when I was 9. I did some embroidery. I was really, I thought I knew the community. I didn't know anything. I knew Michael's.
Yeah.
And that's how you got your yarn.
Yeah.
Even though I had gone to my mom's yarn store, that she's like her home yarn store, is in Redlands, and I had gone there, and I was like, oh, this is cool, but I hadn't put that all together yet. No. And so he's like, oh, no, you need to look at this. And he's like, you need to check out. I think I looked at like Rotary Girls, Espace Tricot. I looked at, of course, I saw a couple Stephen West videos, like his music videos, and I was like, these are hilarious. I'm like, oh yeah. This is a good place.
Yeah.
And I think I saw interviews of Christy Glass, like all of those, her Rhinebeck sweater thing. That was probably one of the first things that I saw that he recommended, and I was all, an hour and a half later.
That's funny. So, probably his girlfriend knew about Christy Glass.
But he knew all of this.
As a marketing guy, he should, right?
As a boyfriend, he knew all of this.
Wow, what a good boyfriend. You're a good yarn boyfriend.
Such a good yarn boyfriend. Like, I was like, I think back and all the stuff that he recommended to me is like all the stuff that, like, good yarn boyfriend. So, yeah, that's how I sort of like delved in. I found myself watching the Christy Glass Rhinebeck sweater thing, and I just sort of put it on real quick, like to do clean the house or whatever. Yeah. And then like about an hour and a half later, I'm just sitting there watching.
I know.
I hadn't moved.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you get hooked.
Then I was like, oh, I see the landscape, and like this is super rad. And so that's what kind of got me started. And I talked to my mom about it, and then I understood what my mom was doing.
And so when did you first create your first piece of fiber jewelry?
For particular, I think the first thing I did a couple of buttons, and I did some shawl pins, and I probably did that 2 years ago.
Oh wow,
last
only
month.
2 years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, wow, great.
Yeah, because the first meeting that I had with my marketing guy, who was my student and who's awesome, was October of. So it's not even been 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And look where you are.
It's kind of, yeah.
And for you guys, I'm gonna show you all the jewelry. I was blown away, and then I saw you at Stitches.
Right.
And I said, oh my God, this jewelry. And so you guys, I ordered something, and I'll show you a close-up picture. But of course, I love my KDGECKO, so Jen was nice enough to, she does custom work. So if you want a custom necklace.
A little bit of custom work.
Your whole life is basically, you've been a creative person, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's always been, you started with the crochet, and like many of us, right? We crochet for a little
while.
Grandma
teaches us.
Grandma teaches us. Do you know what my grandma would do? She'd turn on the soaps back in the 70s, And in the summer, I'd spend time with her, and she was an avid crocheter. She did beautiful doilies with that tiny, thin thread. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. I've tried. It's just, you want to slit your wrist. But she did beautiful work. So she'd feed me peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and Coca-Cola and teach me chain 1, chain 2, chain 3, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so that's very cool. So you've always been artistic, and you are also a photographer. You teach photography?
I see myself as an artist designer, and I have certain tools that I use, and photography is one of them. I don't see myself as a photographer.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
And
why that's...
Why?
Because I don't solely do photography,
Okay.
I think. And then also, it's always been one of my muses, so I don't want to... It's precious to me in a weird way.
Oh, no, that makes sense.
And then I'm also doing, embroidery, I'm doing jewelry, I'm doing, there's always some kind of shiny object that I'm like, ooh, a squirrel. So I see myself as an artist first who uses these tools.
So that's great because you know photography.
Yes.
Then you can make beautiful pictures of what you're creating.
That's been helpful.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Because I know on your Instagram account, you guys have to check out her Instagram account. They're beautiful photographs.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think you've been posting a few black and whites recently too, which are very pretty.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I have to get better at that, learning the light and dark and shadows. And you teach photography?
I do.
Okay.
Like intro classes.
Okay, where do you teach?
At a couple community colleges.
Oh, cool.
Chaffee and Saddleback.
Cool. Where's Saddleback?
Mission Viejo.
Okay. Oh, that's a little bit of a
Yeah.
haul for you.
And
Okay.
Rancho Cucamonga is the other one.
Okay.
So.
Oh my goodness.
But that's only twice a week, so it gives
Okay.
me plenty of time to do the business, the jewelry full time.
Oh, that's cool. Going to attend Vogue Knitting Live this year.
Yes. Yay. First time.
Their 10-year anniversary. It's very exciting. So, are you ready for it?
No.
No.
I'm going to be sharing a booth with Mayak, or I'm going to be a guest. I think the term we use guest brand with Mayak this year.
Okay. We all know Mayak. Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that, and yeah, I'm just starting to get. I bought luggage, and which I know sounds like ridiculous, but be able to take my displays and all my jewelry, and being able to pack everything in a very sort of portable. I've been to New York once, so it's very sort of...
It's so crazy.
Yeah, so being able to pack and then get all the jewelry and buy luggage, and luggage that will support everything that I need to take with me, but also it's a process, but it's fun.
Oh, it's going to be so exciting.
So no, I'm not done at all.
Yeah.
I'm not done.
We have time. Well, actually, no, it's next month, you guys.
4 weeks?
Actually, you're right.
Oh my God,
just
what
over
about
4
that?
weeks, right? Yeah, 5 weeks away. Oh my gosh. When I attended last year, I just said, oh my God, there are so many knitters. And most of them come from the East Coast. So a few people said to me, you came from California for this? I said, well, of course. It's like Mecca, you're bowing to the east.
We don't have
right?
this.
Yeah, no, it's not the same.
We barely have rain.
Yeah, we barely have rain, although we've had rain recently, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, so with Mayak, are you going to be for the whole weekend, or is it just a one? Okay.
Yeah, I'll be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay, cool. Because I know Mayak last year, I don't know if they'll do it this year, they had an event the night before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I didn't know if you were just going to be there. Are you going to be?
I'm going to be there as a guest.
Okay.
Or
And then you'll still do the booth at Marriott. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it'll be very exciting to see you.
Exciting.
And I'm sure some of you may have already met Jen at Rhinebeck. So if you're at Vogue Knitting Live, VKL, New York, then you will see her again. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, and we will see each other at Vogue Knitting Live. Okay, let's say goodbye to the audience. Thanks. Bye. Jen says she's not a knitter, but I'm going to show you guys.